In today's brief insight of current affairs, I'll be discussing China's entry in Iran, its implication on the region, as well as its implication on Pakistan. China and Iran are both apparent rivals of the US on global political stage. And there is a famous saying that enemy of an enemy is a friend. And this statement stands very true in today's arena of global politics. China has made a significant entry to the Mid East and Persian region by signing a $400 billion deal with Iran, which will extend over the period of 25 years. And it is interesting to note that this deal is not just limited to pure economic, but also extends to security. And in return, Iran has agreed to provide China with steady supply of oil. It is important to note that USA had imposed sanctions on Iran, due to which most countries around the world avoided trade with Iran, and those countries who already had trade relationship with Iran tried to back off gradually. A prime example of this is of India. After 2017, we have seen that India didn't purchase the amount of hydrocarbons which it used to in the past. India downsized its hydrocarbon purchases from Iran by 75%, and instead of exploring Iran market, India basically went on to see new partners in the Middle East. And the main reason was not to antagonize the US by continuing purchases from Iran. Another prime example is from India once again, and that is that India gradually decreased its investment in Iran with regards to the deal which it already had, famously known as the Chabahar deal. India was supposed to develop the Chabahar port, Zarjan Dilaram Road, and other infrastructure related projects as well. But after the US sanctions in 2017 and seeing the hard policies of Trump towards Iran, India gradually decreased its investment in Iran. However, China, being an emerging global power, saw an opportunity because there was a vacuum that was left by India and other countries, and China thought about filling that vacuum and putting its steps in Iran. And that led towards China and Iran signing a $400 billion deal, which will continue for the next 25 years. Out of this $400 billion, approximately more than 50% is China's investment in the hydrocarbon sector, which means oil, gas, etc. On the other hand, the rest amount will be on the infrastructure development, which includes Chabahar seaport and other infrastructure related projects around Iran. It is important to note that China is one of the main importers of Iran's hydrocarbon. Approximately 26% of China's oil and gas and other hydrocarbons come directly from Iran. So China is already reliant on Iran's hydrocarbon to a greater extent. The timing of China's entry into Iran is very significant and plays a pivotal role in their future relationship, because China came into Iran at that time when the world was trying to single out Iran from rest of the countries. But China didn't adhere to that and followed their own policy and signed a deal with Iran and stepped into their market, and hence became an economic lifeline for Iran. And this was very significant, and China did achieve a political milestone from this, because a statement came from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Iran, who said that China is a true friend because China is standing with Iran during its hard times. Another aspect of the deal is very important as well, because the draft calls for deepening military relationship, intelligence sharing, joint collaboration, and other security related measures between China and Iran. And in fact, in 2019, before the signing of this deal, we have seen that China had engaged, especially in Chabahar region in the Gulf of Oman, with Russia, Iran, and engaged in a joint naval exercise, which shows China's eagerness in gaining political and security dominance in that region. Let's now talk about the geostrategic and geoeconomic implications of this on the region. So China, being an emerging global power, has once again challenged the US's dominance in the region by signing a deal with Iran. Because previously, China was not in the driving seat in the region, but now China has set up a strong footing in the region and hence empowering another geostrategic rival of US, which is Iran. And the deal doesn't just have economic implications and economic benefits for Iran, but as said before, it has a defense and security aspect as well. And China has shown its power somehow by engaging and organizing a joint military navy exercise in the Gulf of Oman near Chabahar back in 2019 with Iran, Russia, and China. And this is quite worrisome for the US because throughout, USA was trying to support its ally in the Middle East and providing the military support to Saudi Arabia, providing fighter jets to UAE, mainly to contain Iran. In fact, Saudi Arabia is the largest buyer of US's military weapons. And this is going to further weaponize the Persian Gulf and the Middle East because USA would not accept China's dominance in the region. Furthermore, after Biden's statement of complete withdrawal by September 11 is going to further empower China in the region because Afghanistan is right next door and there is a chance that China may penetrate to the markets of Afghanistan and establish their hegemony and dominance because we have seen that whoever had control of Iran, like previously it was India. So India did have access to Afghanistan, especially after the establishment of Zarjan-Dilaram Road, which connects Iran with Afghanistan. So there is a high chance that USA, after withdrawing their troops, China might come to the market of Afghanistan because there will be a vacuum, and historically we have seen that China never leaves such opportunities. And this as a result would further strengthen China, both geostrategic wise and geoeconomic wise, because China will be effectively having control of two major countries, that is Iran and Afghanistan. Overall, it will have a negative implication on the region, especially considering the security aspect. Because since China has set its footing in the region, USA would try their very best to contain China, because containment of China has remained a top priority of the US, especially from the last 5 years. And since China is coming aggressively in the region, USA would try to militarize their allies in the Middle East to a greater extent. And militarization of any region is never positive. Let's talk about the implications for Pakistan. Well, for Pakistan, this can be a blessing in disguise, because China is a strong geoeconomic and geostrategic ally of Pakistan. And China has supported Pakistan through thick and thin. And in fact, China is having one of its flagship projects of One Belt, One Road initiative, which is known as the CPEC. I'll be covering CPEC in my future videos, but for now you can just remember that it's a massive trade deal and a massive economic project with China. So Pakistan can use this opportunity to include Iran into CPEC, as we have previously seen that Iran had shown its interest to be part of CPEC. But now this can be manifested into reality since China is already having a major trade deal with Iran. So Pakistan can further make special economic zones on the border of Afghanistan, Iran, as well as Pakistan and Iran. And we have seen that the relationship of Iran and Pakistan have become severely cordial, especially after Chinese entry. And recently during Shah Mahmood Qureshi's visit to Iran, we have seen that Iran and Pakistan have both indicated that they will be increasing their economic efforts in both the countries. Furthermore, India's exit from Iran after China's entry is very beneficial for Pakistan, because in the past we have seen that Iranian soil was being used by India to carry out attacks in Pakistan, especially on its CPEC project. And this was further confirmed by an Indian spy, Kulbhushan Yadav, in his interview, who clearly said that we were using Chabahar for attacks against Pakistan. So security-wise, Pakistan is getting a major benefit as well. Moreover, it is important to note that Chabahar seaport is a natural rival and a natural competitor to Gwadar port, because geographical wise they are the same, they lie in the same region, and hence there was a competition that which port to use, Chabahar or Gwadar. But since China has entered into Iran and taken control of Chabahar port, this rivalry would end. And in fact, this will further boost the trade and CPEC, because now both the routes can be used for facilitating CPEC, and Gwadar won't be disadvantaged because of Chabahar, because both Chabahar and Gwadar would be managed and developed by China. Furthermore, it is important to note that China's entry into Iran automatically exits India's entry into Afghanistan, because India was mainly accessing Afghanistan from Iran through Zarjan, Dilaram road, etc., because that was the main entry point for India. But since India is out of Iran, which means India is automatically out from Afghanistan, which means that India could not have a dominance over Afghanistan, which means that there will be vacuum, and instead China can come into play, Pakistan can come into play and make Afghanistan a prosperous country by carrying out various economic deals, economic plans, and even to some extent including it as a part of CPEC. So this is also another geo-economic and geostrategic benefit for Pakistan. So this was a brief insight of China and Iran deal. I'll be covering more topics in the future, and if you have any suggestions about any topics, please feel free to comment. Thank you very much.